Latest football news,
engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, your host, George. Hello, long time no see. Yes, we've been off for a few weeks. We've been suspended from, actually not suspended. We've been injured. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to record a show because of me and Dan's busy work schedules. And funny enough, Dan, he's actually got a bit of time off from his work schedule. And he's here with me this week. Dan, how are you doing? Long time no see. And have you been enjoying all the football we've had?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. It has been busy, but yeah, I've been enjoying the football. Some decent results for Town in there as well. We've been playing well recently, so it's looking up, isn't it?
It is looking up. Yes, we've had lots of decent results for Town, which we haven't talked about, but we have got Town this week, and we will be talking about them. But before we do, I better mention the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk, Instagram's at Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. If you want to listen back to any of our previous shows, do not worry, they're all up there on the YouTube Mixcloud. Go and have a listen to them. Why not? But as we've always sort of teased already, we are talking about Ipswich Town this week. That is coming up in the show. A double cup tie for Town playing in the FA Cup first round. And in that Papa John's trophy, which I'm very disappointed because it's not a piece of shield. You win an actual trophy. I think it should be a pizza shield, perfectly honest, Don't you think that, Dan, as well?
It should be, yeah. We should just win some pizza. That's it. Just lift that up at the end.
I think that would be good. Or just vouchers for Papa John's,
Yeah.
I think that would be a worthy thing to put in the trophy cabinet. I want Papa John's vouchers at the Papa John's trophy at Wembley. But then when they change it back to John's paint, then you'll be like, I don't want the paint vouchers. No, thank you. But also we'll be talking about the Premier League game week number 11. We had quite a lot actually happening in game week number 11. And also we'll be talking about the revolving door of managers. Yes, we've had a lot of managers been replaced and also been let go, but we've actually had a few brand new candidates coming into the Premier League and the other leagues surrounding the Premier League. But when we come back, we'll be talking about Ipswich Town and what's been going on in the cup runs. Don't go anywhere.
Stay up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan. As always, now before we move on talking about Ipswich Town, double cup ties this week, not double back-to-back away games or home double bills. It's actually cup ties this time, something a little bit different. I better mention the social media. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk, Instagram's at Talk_Pitch, YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. And well, Ipswich Town, they took a little break from their recent league success to play in the cups this week. Yes, they played in the FA Cup first round against Oldham at home and also in that Papa John's trophy against Ipswich Town's B team. Oh, no, sorry, I've misread that. That's Colchester United. But before they played in the league, they had before they go back into the league to play a very highly intense game coming up on Saturday. But firstly, Town, they kicked off their journey in the FA Cup, looking to make an impact in this cup competition and actually take it seriously for once. Well, that's the words of Paul Cook. He actually said that he wanted to take this seriously. And he said that by the caliber of squad that he'll be picking from, it'll show how seriously Town would be taking it. And fair enough. And he picked a very strong squad for this game to play against League Two struggling Oldham Athletic. But unfortunately on the day, Blues fell flat and needs a replay after a 1-1 draw with Oldham. Dan, from the highs of Wycombe, a 4-1 win, where did this Ipswich Town side go? Where is the real Ipswich Town side? I'm still trying to find them. They're missing at the moment, the real Ipswich Town side. Go on somewhere else, so not the real one. But with the squad that played in the league, this is a squad that has played in the league. Only one change from that win against Wycombe. It's weird to see this, a Town drawing 1-1 to League Two Oldham, but they could beat Wycombe 4-1.
Yeah, it was a really strange result, wasn't it? I think we were all surprised to start with that he'd only make one change for this game because, so I think it's been so long since we've taken the FA Cup seriously. Previous managers just haven't cared about this competition, which is sad in some ways because, a cup run's always good. And I'd love to see us go on at least a cup run once in a while, but it just hasn't happened in recent years. So I was quite pleased to see a pretty much unchanged lineup. And I thought, we should easily be able to win this game against a struggling Oldham side. And I think the first 10 minutes, it was going all to plan. We'd scored that early goal and looked like we were going to, easily win the game. But, from the goal, it just was so flat from us. It was really, really flat. And fair play to Oldham, who performed really well. They were passing the ball around. One of their players, I forget his name now, was really stand out for me. It would help if I remembered his name. But he was getting the ball and spreading the ball out wide and bringing it forward and looked quite a handful. So fair play to them. But, with the team that we'd put out, we needed to get a hold of the game and we just couldn't from pretty much when we scored to the end of the game. Nothing really happened. I thought we'd get a response in the second half.
Yeah.
That didn't happen either. So yeah, it was just really disappointing to see such a flat performance because we've come off a high from Wycombe. What an amazing result that was. Probably the best of the season so far. To this, I get that it's the FA Cup and it's not the priority, but it's quite worrying really to see this. Our first team not, performing against a team that are struggling in the league below. I just think it's really disappointing performance from us.
Yeah, it actually is quite weird. I do agree with you because this is a town side we're seeing play in the league. We know what they can do. And it's only one change really from that Wycombe game where they won 4-1 and then they come to this game against Oldham and you kind of go, oh, they should easily win this. No disrespect to Oldham or to any opponents. You would put Town favourites to win because of what they do at the moment in the league and what league they're in. You would put them as favourites and it is unfortunately disappointing, but it could have been a lot worse. A lot worse. Ipswich Town, they did actually concede a penalty in the second half, but it was saved luckily by Christian Walton, who actually spoke after the game about the team's disappointed, saying it was disappointing from the team's point of view because we obviously want to get through to the next round without needing a replay. But for himself, he's very happy to save the penalty, saying it was a nice feeling to save a penalty. And obviously, I'm delighted to have kept us in it. I've done my job. And if I can keep that up with these big moments, I know when I'm doing something right. And hopefully I can keep doing that for the team. But Dan, since sort of his return to the squad in the Cambridge game, he's been bang on form, really, conceding only 3 goals in his last 4. In his debut, he conceded 5 in one game. But also as well, he's actually been involved in 3 wins out of the last 5. So really for Walton coming to this game, he's actually sort of now, do you feel that he's got that number 1 shirt nailed? He's got that signed, sealed and delivered, Holy, unfortunately, he's been out on emergency loan. He has come back now from Cambridge, but he's been out on emergency loan. Halaki has sort of been a bit inconsistent here and there. Maybe he is the number 2 now. We're not really too sure. But for Walton, he's actually been a little bit of an unsung hero in Ipswich Town side from all the big performances from Bond, Burns, Selena, and many others.
He has, yeah. It's kind of different to see a consistent keeper because we've been crying out really for a really good keeper since we lost Bart, obviously, and we've been through a few that haven't been the greatest. So it's good to see some consistent performances from a goalkeeper. And I think when we signed him, I think we all thought that he was Paul Cook's first choice, and he struggled with injuries to start with, didn't he? Like he had a tough time. It seemed like, the last few games he had of his spell, he was kind of getting into the rhythm of things again, and looking more consistent. But, since Walton's come in, he's looked a really good goalkeeper. And I'm glad to see it's been something we've been needing for a while, hasn't it? Because I just think our keeper's made so many mistakes over the last few years. It's just getting ridiculous, really. So, to see a keeper come in and make some really good saves, some really good performances in there that he's been involved in. Probably a game-saving save really against Wickham, saved the penalty against Oldham. So he's had a really good start, I guess. To he's on loan till the end of the season, so let's see how it goes. But he's had a good start to his Ipswich career, and it's good for him because he's been injured at the start of the season. He's come in and cemented that number one place, and let's hope his form continues, because I think we saw with the save against Wickham, it's them type of saves that win you games, and that's what it did against Wickham. If that would have gone in, I think that would have made it 3-2 at the time with about 10 minutes to go, and you know what we're like when we get in them kind of positions. So it's great to see a keeper making a save like that to win us a game, and long may it continue. And I'm sure he's Paul Cook's number one. I think Kaladki's a good enough number two. I'm not trying to disrespect him in any way. He's just had as you said, an inconsistent start. But yeah, long may it continue.
Yes, long may it continue. And a good Ipswich Town goalkeeper. We've not seen that since Bart, like you said, and that's a really good thing to see. Well, Dan, Ipswich, they've got to play a replay against Oldham. We will talk about this in a bit more detail near the time, but they have got players on the 16th of November. But we did learn who they'll be playing in the second round, and it is still another home tie, but this time against Barrow, who are in League Two. They currently sit in 15th place League Two. But for Town, really here, they've got to play Oldham. But will they have a bit more of incentive to try and actually win the game? Because if they do, they get a home tie against Barrow, another League Two side, and then if they beat them, then we're talking possibly big boys come to Portman Road, Premier League opposition, which I think Town have been crying out for that a long time, a Premier League side actually coming to Portman Road. But for them, will they now have that incentive to go, if we win this, we could be effective, well, not effectively, we could have another good chance here of getting into the third round?
Yeah, and I think that's the aim. That's been the aim for the past few seasons. And everyone knows what we're like in cup competitions, but I think this is a really, really good chance. I think the last two seasons we've had games against Pompey, which we lost and was expected. I think we played. Did we get? Yeah, I think we got through to the second round the season before that, but we had that weird period where we played Coventry about 4 times in a month, and we went out at that point. And so I think this is the biggest chance we've had to get to the third round since we automatically went into it. And I really want to see that. I want to see us go up against a good side. A Premier League side would be great, at Portman Road. What an occasion that'll be, because it's been so long since we've seen a team like that in competitive football, isn't it? Yeah, I'd love to see that. And I think, we still got a job to do, obviously. I think if he puts out a good team away at Oldham, I think we could go and win there, no matter what happened in the game at Portman Road. And then coming up in the second round against Barrow, who again a League Two side, on paper we're better than them. I think we can win that as well. So this is, a really good chance to get a cup run going. And Paul Cook said he wants that, and it's good for their winning mentality as well, isn't it? That we need. It's getting towards Christmas now, and we always say that's the point really where you see what teams are going to be in the top 6 come the end of the season. I know it can easily change a lot, but I think going on a cup run only helps that, doesn't it, with their winning mentality going forward. So yeah, I really want to get into the third round and see what happens from there. Let's hopefully get a big team in the third round. Who knows? We might get Norwich and see a derby this year. That'd be interesting.
Don't tease us with a derby. Do not tease us with a derby. It would be nice, but it's not tease us with a derby. Well, we did effectively have a derby on Tuesday. Town, they didn't have long to wait after a disappointing result. I'm sorry, Dan. It's a derby. Apparently, according to one side, but to the other, it isn't. And I agree, it isn't a derby. But I like to say it just to get you to. Just get your blood to boil just a little bit more. But after a disappointing result, Down, they didn't have long to wait until their next game. And it was a very important one for them as they were playing Colchester United in the Papa John's Trophy. And a win for either side would see them qualify into the next round, but a draw would see them go to a penalty shootout. And well, Town, they beat Chambers and Sears' Colchester United on penalties going into the next round as runners-up. But as we now record this, they actually go through now as first-place team after West Ham's under-21s were deducted 3 points for fielding an ineligible player. So that means now Town qualify through as first-place team. So it means now they're going to get a home tie. And also Colchester, they qualify through as well as the second-place team because of West Ham's points being deducted. But Dan, Ipswich, they made it into the next round. But quite a thrilling game, actually. You didn't go in the end. I was slightly annoyed you didn't go to this thrilling A12 derby. It's so thrilling, so feisty. But it was quite a much better performance by Town. But also as well, it was interesting that the two sides could have been separated in 90 minutes.
Yeah, there's another strange game, and he put out a team that there was a lot of changes, and I think that was expected. He kind of said that, didn't he, in his interview after the Oldham one? He said, if fans want to come and spend money to watch a changed team, which is fair enough. I think we were expecting it to happen, but yeah, it seemed like a better performance, and it seemed like we dominated really, and we could have easily won the game. So I guess it's really frustrating that we didn't win it over 90 minutes. Obviously, winning on penalties, we'll take it, won't we? We'll take that into the next round, even if this game in the end didn't really mean much because of what happened to West Ham, because both of us go through anyway. But we didn't know that at the time. So, I think we were all pleased with the penalty shootout win, and I guess pleased with at least a better performance than Oldham, because that was disappointing. So yeah, I'm not going to complain with that. I guess we should have won over the 90. I did see Colchester had an amazing chance at the end to win it. I think Halaki made a mistake, didn't he, at the end, with an open goal, and they put it wide. So lucky that didn't go in, but we'll take it going into the next round, and who knows what will happen in this competition. Even though we all don't really get what this competition is and don't really like it, we'll all take a trip to Wembley at the end of it, wouldn't we? I think we'll all take it.
We'll take it. I'll tell you a funny story. I actually went to this game, right? And I thought, it's ended in the 90. It's decided in the 90, right? So the full-time whistle went for the 90. And I saw Town was second. I thought, oh, that's right. Town was second place. They're qualified for it anyway. So I stood up at the full-time thinking, why is nobody else standing up and getting ready to go? And I didn't realise it actually goes to penalties.
Yes.
I actually looked like a right idiot, funny enough. But funny enough, the person who's sitting in front of me, he left at the 88th minute to try and beat all the traffic. So it wasn't just me, but I wish there was some clarification to say it was going to go to penalties. I thought it was a bit odd. But it was actually quite a sign watching a penalty shoot. I've never seen one before.
Yeah.
Never seen one before. But somebody who was very delighted with his side was Paul Cook. He spoke after the game about his side's progress into the knockout stages of the Cup, and he was absolutely delighted to see Portman Road so happy at the end of the game. He said, we're into the next round. It's a good competition. There's a final at Wembley, and let's go and try and go all the way. Well, Dan, Town, they are only now 4 games now effectively away from Wembley. But for Paul Cook, really, he'll be much more happier with his side, because I think after the Oldham game, he didn't really speak very highly about Town. I think he used quite a lot of negative words to describe his side's performance. But for him, he'd be much happier with it. And he did say he was, because they were a bit more attacking. They made more opportunities. Yes, they did lack that final bit of quality in the box, that final touch. But overall, a much happier Paul Cook, which we like to see.
Yeah, you do. And I think when you make that many changes, you're not really sure how your team's going to perform, do you? Because these players haven't really played a competitive game together that much this year. So yeah, I'm from the performance, I'm not surprised he's happy with that. We could have easily won the game, couldn't we? So we just need to take them chances, and I think he knows that, and seemed much more happier than the Oldham game, which, as I said before, was really disappointing. His comments, I like to hear him say that let's go all the way to Wembley, because that's that's the dream, to see Ipswich at Wembley. We all know the statistic about us. I think there's another like 6 teams haven't been to New Wembley yet.
Yeah.
We want to change that. And I think this competition, unless we go through the playoffs at the end of this season, which, is looking likely. And I think probably could happen, but we all know what happened, what the playoffs are like. I think this competition is a great chance to do that, with, a lot of under 21 teams in there. Obviously there's going to be a tough game in there at some point. I think we've got a home tie in the next round. And the draw's weird in this competition, isn't it? Because you've already got like set teams that you can play. I think we've got like
I actually have teams.
Four other teams. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's kind of a weird one.
So the teams that Ipswich can face in the next round at home at Portman Road is Arsenal under 21s, Chelsea's under 21s, Charlton and Stevenage are the teams that the town could face in the next round.
Yeah, so I don't know who you'd prefer out of them 4, but I think we've got enough to win all 4 of them games. So, let's go on a run. Let's make it to Wembley. I'd love to see it.
Yes, I would love to see it as well. Whoever town do draw in this cup competition, the ties will be played on the 29th of November. So that is next. Oh God, it's the last Tuesday of the month. Actually, it's last Tuesday.
Yes.
I'm losing track of time. This is not a good thing. I'm losing track of time. It's not very good at all. Well, Town, they are back in the league this week after 2 cup games at home, and they are looking to make it 3 in a row at home, actually, funny enough, as they look to make it also back. They make it 3 in a row, playing 3 games in a row at home. I'm getting absolutely lost. This is not very good. I'm a bit rusty. I'm sorry. I apologise. I should have done my training beforehand. But they're looking to make it back-to-back wins in the league and go 1 point off the playoffs. But Oxford are in town. They're making the trip down to Suffolk, who currently actually sit in that final playoff position at the moment in 6th. But they have won the last 3 games in a row, scoring 8 and only conceding 2. Dan, Town, they come into this looking to continue on their recent home form. We know how good they've been at Portman Road quite recently. They're making that a bit more of a fortress. And also their away form is really picking up as well, looking to the prior matches against Wickham. But for Oxford really here, they're looking to come and make it 4-0 and also cement that place in the playoffs.
Yeah, they are. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a good one as well. I think there's over 20,000 going to be there, and it's the first game first league game I'll be to since the Doncaster one. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a really tough game. We all know what Oxford are like in this league. They're a really tough side to play against. Good manager. I think they've been unlucky in the past few seasons. I think they've been in the playoffs, one of them, haven't they? Got knocked out. I think did they get knocked out by Wickham maybe in the semi-final of one of possibly. Them? I can't really remember. But yeah, they're a tough team to play against. But I think we're a tough team to play against as well. And I think we're in form at Portman Road. I think if we play, I guess, the same kind of team as we did against Wickham, I think I'll be quite confident going into it, no matter who we play. So I'm going to say we're going to get all 3 points. I think it's going to be a really close one, but I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for Town in this one.
Oh, so Dan going for all 3 points to Ipswich Town this week, a 1-0 win to them. What do you think? Let us know on Twitter at Pitch Talk what your score predictions are for Ipswich Town versus Oxford United this week. It's coming up on this Saturday. Only not long now, less than 12 hours to go until Portman Road is absolutely bouncing with an expected figure of 20,000 fans, which is really good to see as well. But that is all for the Ipswich Town section this week. And when we come back, we'll be talking about the Premier League game week number 11, a very thrilling week. We've had lots of managers win the sack race. Also 2 local teams clash as well in a very big derby. And also maybe we have a dark horse for the title of this season. So don't go anywhere.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on IO Radio. It's Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan, as always. Now, before we move on to talking about the Premier League this week, game week number 11, I better mention the social medias. If not, I will get told off. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram is at talk_pitch. YouTube and Mixcloud are both at Pitchside Talk. And don't worry if you missed anything from today's show. Do not worry. At 6 p.m. on YouTube and Mixcloud, you can listen back to this show. You can listen back to whenever you want to. If you missed anything from the town section this week, do not worry. That'll be up there at 6 p.m. So do not worry at all. And now, finally, the Premier League, we headed into game week number 11 after a very thrilling game week number 10. But this time we had two local clubs clash in probably, I think, the biggest derby in the world, technically. Unfortunately, it is one of the biggest derbies in the world. We also discovered we might actually have a dark horse for the title race this season. And also a title contender drops points in the title race this week. But we better look at the results first and kicking off with a Friday night game. We saw Southampton win 1-0 against Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa have lost 5 games on the bounce. The Manchester derby happened and Manchester City won 2-0 in that game on Saturday lunchtime against Manchester United. Norwich got their first win of the season against Brentford in the 2-1. Chelsea drew 1-1 with Burnley dropping points from winning position. Also, Crystal Palace, they won 2-0 against Wolves, ending Wolves' unbeaten run, but also continuing Crystal Palace's very unbeaten run at the moment. Also, Brighton, they drew 1-1 with Newcastle. And then Sunday, kicking off with the Sunday games, Arsenal won 1-0 against Watford. Everton drew 0-0 with Tottenham in Antonio Conte's first game as Spurs manager in the league. Leeds, they picked up a 1-1 draw against Leicester. And West Ham won 3-2 against Liverpool, the last game before the international break. And now the two biggest sides in the world clash in the biggest derby in the world, unfortunately, in Manchester United hosting Man City in the Manchester derby. A win for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would have eased the pressure on him, but Man City really need to bounce back after a defeat to Crystal Palace. And, well, we saw Manchester City increase the pressure on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as they cruised to a 2-0 victory in a very dominant display, looking very much above a class of Manchester United. But Dan, Man City looked very much a different class to Manchester United. A magnificent performance by them. Quite surprised it was actually 2-0. It could have been easily 10 if they really put that hard socks in it. But it looks like they didn't really get out of second gear, which I guess Pep would be very happy to see. But for Manchester United, another lackluster display. The first time back at home since losing 5-0 to Liverpool, and the pressure well and truly back on Solskjaer.
It is, yeah. I don't know how he's still in the job, if I'm being honest. It's really, really disappointing performance from them. And I think coming up against Man City, it's such an important game for Manchester United, for the fans. It's such a huge derby. I don't know if you'd argue, I'd probably say the Liverpool one's a bit bigger than this one, but, it's still a huge game. And to come there and at Old Trafford and perform like that, it's awful from them. You can't knock Man City though. They put in one of their fantastic performances. As you said, could have probably won more than 2-0 in the end. I think I watched the first half and they were absolutely dominant from start to finish. Some strange goals, I'd say. An unfortunate one from Bay in the first one, which was the own goal, and the mistake from De Gea, who had been excellent in that first half up until then. Manchester United just couldn't get into it, and it's just really disappointing. And these are the games where it's all well and good beating teams down the bottom and performing well against them, but coming into these huge games, you got to be performing better than that. And Ollie's tactics keep getting questioned, and the substitutions he makes are a bit strange, and he keeps losing these important games. So we keep seeing it. Ollie's going to stay. We keep seeing people saying that, but I just don't understand. I think I've said from the start, I don't think he's the man for the job. He's done all right, but he hasn't done enough, in my opinion, for where Manchester United want to be, really.
Yeah, it's sort of a bit of a weird situation for Solskjaer because we sort of saw with Liverpool, it sort of came to blows, really. The performance there, it sort of had been building for a little bit of time, relieved the pressure really against Spurs, and then, with Man City. But for Solskjaer, it's sort of a bit of a lose-lose situation really for him, because when he loses, it's all his fault. But when he wins, it's all luck. It's all lucky for him because he's got Ronaldo, he's got Fernandes, he's got all these fantastic players. But whenever he wins, it seems to be he's still a bad manager. But whenever he loses, he's still a bad manager.
I guess that goes against him, doesn't it? That's what he gets from a lot of people, and that's one thing that you can't really get away from if you're Ollie. So yeah, it's disappointing. But when you've got, you keep seeing Ronaldo getting Manchester United out of scrapes. It happens all the time now, doesn't it? You got that type of player that can change games. As you say, you've got Fernandes who can change games. It helps when you got them players, doesn't it? To keep you in a job, and that's pretty much what's been happening, I think. I seriously, if these losses keep coming in, I don't think he'll last long. It's just who's going to come in to replace him. There's not really anyone available right now. I thought they would have sacked him by now and got Conte in. That's not available anymore. So what are they supposed to do? But yeah, I understand he's in a lose-lose situation, and even when Man United perform well, it's kind of taken away from Ollie the fact that he's got some great players, or it's luck, isn't it? So I guess I feel sorry for him in that way, but in my opinion, he's not good enough for the job, and that's just a non-Man United fan on a radio show talking about that. So what do I know?
Yeah, what do you know? They might sack him. You know what might happen? You might see Neil Warnock go there. What a fantastic sign that would be for Manchester United. But now moving on to the last game before the international break, we saw West Ham host Liverpool. Both sides in absolutely fabulous form. West Ham picking up results left, right, centre, and Liverpool, we all know, have been contending for the title. But West Ham, they did stun Liverpool as they secured their biggest win of the season in a 3-2 win, which saw the Hammers jump up to third place in the league. But Dan, firstly, West Ham this season, they've beaten Leicester, Liverpool, Manchester United, Man City, Spurs. They've qualified through to the next round of the Europa League as well, unbeaten in their group. Dave Moyes has worked absolute wonders since returning back to the Hammers. And surely now Champions League football for next season is a realistic goal, how well his side is playing and how other sides are playing. Bigger sides are not doing well at all. But what about title contenders? Because we have to think here, they're only 3 points off the top. Chelsea have lost points. They're taking points off Liverpool. They've still got to play Chelsea and Man City. West Ham for the title, can we say?
Oh, what a season it would be if they were champions by the end of it. I think top four can be a realistic aim for them this year after the start they've had, as you say. They've been unbelievable. I think, after the season they had last year, we all thought they'd have a decent season this year and get into the top 10 at least. But what a start they've had, and it's come as a surprise to me how well they've started. They're 3 points off the top at the moment. It's November, so who knows? We've seen weird things happen in this league before. What a great job David Moyes has done. He's proven me and a lot of people wrong, because I vividly remember trash talking him on the show when he joined. I think I just didn't understand it. But he's absolutely proved me wrong. And fair play to him, because he's got that West Ham team firing, and they're beating teams in and around them. So, who knows where they could go, and what a performance and what a win it was against Liverpool as well, a team who have, scored so many goals this year, and they're on an unbeaten run themselves.
25 unbeaten.
Yeah, 25. What an unbelievable win that is for them. So who knows what could happen. Yeah,
unbelievable win for West Ham, but for Liverpool, a very much mixed emotions, really. And mixed emotions actually for all week, really. A very eye-catching win over Atletico Madrid, beating them 2-0, actually qualifying in the Champions League, unbeaten in their group. But that's been sort of sandwiched between two very disappointing Premier League games where there's only been 1 point picked up in those two Premier League games. They did draw to Brighton 2-2. We have to remember that at Anfield. But really for them, playing against West Ham, all their defensive woes were exposed this season. We've seen Liverpool sort of properly exposed for the first time this season. We do know there is a few defensive issues in that Liverpool side, a few key injuries in midfield as well, but they were fully exposed at the London Stadium. But realistically, Klopp did describe this defeat as unnecessary. But this is a big blow, really, for the title race because they've only picked up 1 point in the last two. I know Chelsea and Man City have dropped points, but this could be a big blow by the end of the season, realistically, if we think in the long view here.
Yeah, it's got the signs of being one of them games you look back on, isn't it, at the end of the season? So let's wait and see for that. But yeah, it's a disappointing result for them. I think injuries have been a problem for Liverpool for the last two seasons, haven't they? Last year it was a huge one. We all know what a difference Van Dijk makes in that side, and we've had a lot of injury problems this year as well. First loss of the season, so I don't think it's anything to panic about, really. I think Liverpool will be fine come the end of it, but it's disappointing when you lose a game like this, isn't it? And who knows what could happen, and could this be a game they look back on and think, is that the turning point? It's still early on, isn't it? We've only played 11 games and it's November, so there's still Liverpool there now 4 points off the top. So there's time to turn it around, and Liverpool have all the assets to do that, haven't they? So I wouldn't panic too much if you're a Liverpool fan at the moment. I think you'll be fine, but at this point in time, that is a disappointing loss to West Ham, and there's work to do.
Yes, there is work to do, and that is everything for the Premier League section this week. We won't have any Premier League next week because we're on international duties. We've got England games instead to fill the void of no Premier League. So at least we've got some football. That is the main thing. And when we come back, we'll be talking about the revolving door of managers. As the international break has hit, lots of managers have been given the marching orders. Two of them to be especially, but also we've got some returning faces in the Premier League and a fresh face also returning. Coming back to the Premier League for the first time since playing his whole career in the Premier League. And we'll be talking about that right after this.
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Hello and welcome back to Pitchside Talk here on iRadios Fridays at 5 p.m. with me, George and Dan. As always now, before we move on talking about the revolving door of managers this week, I better mention the social medias. Twitter is at Pitchside Talk. Instagram's at Talk_Pitch. YouTube, Mixcolour, both at Pitchside Talk. And if you missed anything from today's show, do not worry. At 6 p.m, once the show is all done and dusted, it'll be up on YouTube, Mixcolour, for you to listen back to us talking about the Premier League this week and also Ipswich Town as well. Now we start off with I don't think we've ever done this before, Dan, talk about managers, because we've actually had quite a lot of managers, get sacked from their jobs, but also some new managers come in as well to replace these managers. And we're going to be starting off with Norwich City, as Daniel Farke was sacked only just hours after their first Premier League win of the season, as the Canaries won 2-1 over Brentford. Daniel Farke has led Norwich really to promotion from the Champions League twice since taking over in 2017. But this one had sort of been on the cards for a little bit, but not after his first win of the season. That's a little bit weird. But for Farke, really, would he reflect his time at Norwich as quite a happy time? He'd gotten back to the Premier League twice, but not a very good Premier League record himself. I think only 6 wins out of 48 games, I want to say.
Yeah, that's not great, is it? I think he'd leave happy with the job he's done there, because he's kind of, they're seen as a yo-yo club, but getting promoted from the Championship to the Premier League is a good thing, isn't it? So I don't think you can really complain about that. I think it was a bit of a strange time for him to go after their first win, but I think it was probably coming. I just think the start of the season they've had, we've seen their owners kind of saying we don't want to just be, we want to actually compete in this league and not be left behind. So I think they needed to change quickly because that looked like it was happening. I guess with other teams not performing great at the moment, it kind of helped them. But yeah, I just think this sacking was coming, and they just had to pick the right time to do it. A bit of a strange one at after the first win, but I guess that they decided it was the right time to get a new manager in, and they needed to do it quickly before this season was too far. It was too far away for them to survive. I still think it's going to be a tough job to do that, no matter who comes in. But they needed to change things.
Yes, they need to change things. And at this current moment of time of recording, Frank Lampard has not been appointed yet as Norwich manager, but he is heavily in talks to be the new Canaries boss. And he could be probably appointed by this time, but we're not just too sure just yet. But now moving on to another club who sacked their manager, and it was Aston Villa who sacked Dean Smith after 3 years in charge of Aston Villa. He was sacked. He has left Villa in 17th place in the league, only 2 points above the relegation zone, but he follows a 1-0 defeat to Southampton, which was the club's fifth successive defeat in the Premier League this season. Dan, quite a sad sacking, really, Dean Smith. He took over Villa back in October 2018, guided them back to the back out of the Championship for the first time into the Premier League at the first time of asking. Narrowly just survived in his first season and also led them to a cup final. Did very well in his second season, but this season really, he's lost Jack Grealish. He's lost John Terry, one of his key sort of backroom staff. Signed a lot of players. And unfortunately, since beating Manchester United, hasn't really worked out since then.
It hasn't, no. I think this is another one that people are kind of maybe expecting. It's a bit of a surprising one, I'd say, because we all know what a quality manager he could be. But I think just after the start that Aston Villa have had, I think people expect, even with Grealish leaving in the summer, I think you look at the Aston Villa squad and think that they could be a mid-table to top half Premier League side. So to have this kind of start, it's really disappointing for them and poor. So, I don't think I'm surprised in that sense. But I think he's the type of manager that could turn it around, isn't he? I think if he was given a little bit more time, but obviously this is the point they thought that they needed to change things, which I guess is fair enough. I'd say it's a sad one because he's been a really good manager for Villa the past few years. He's done a great job, but I guess losing John Terry as well, I reckon that affected him in more ways than people think. I think backroom staff are kind of forgotten about really, and they still play an important part. So I think that kind of affected him as well. So yeah, a disappointing one, but I think one that I saw coming as well.
Yes, I think it was sort of on the cards as well. And his new appointment has been made by Aston Villa, as they have appointed Steven Gerrard to be the new Aston Villa manager on a 3.5-year deal, ending his time at Rangers, which was 3 years. Dan, a very sort of interesting appointment really here for Aston Villa. Steven Gerrard coming to the club. He wasn't one of the first choice members at the time. I think there's some people have been ahead of him, but Villa have got their man in Steven Gerrard. We know what he's done in Scotland has been very good. The first time asking at his first senior management job, leading Rangers back to the top, and also ending Celtic sort of 10 in a row and putting that club back on the map and leaving them in quite a good moment, 4 points clear at the top of the tail. But for Gerrard here, he comes into a situation where he's got to make an impact straight away because Villa are going to want results straight away. And with the caliber of squad he's got, he should be probably expected to make this sort of thing. But for him, he'd be looking to better himself at Villa.
Yeah, he will. It's going to be a tough job for him, isn't it? But I'm sure it's one that he's relishing. His first job back in England, which we all knew was going to come at some point. Maybe not at the club we all expected it to be, but I think this is a really good appointment for Villa. I expect him, to make a quick turnaround. He's that type of manager, and he's done such a good job at Rangers. I know it's kind of different caliber really going into a side in the Premier League. don't think Scottish fans would like me saying that, but I think that's the way it is. So he's got a big job on his hands, but he's got a really good squad at Aston Villa, and he's a good manager himself. So I'm sure it's one that he could take by the scruff of the neck and try and get Aston Villa out of the problems that they're in at the moment. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see. It's a really interesting appointment, but I think they've made the right decision in the end and got the right man in. And yeah, let's see how he does, because it's going to be I think it'll be a bumpy ride, but I think it'll be good in the end.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And somebody who's got a very bumpy ride is Eddie Howe, as he is now being appointed as the Newcastle manager, the final appointment of this merry-go-round of managers. But Dan, a few quick words really here. Eddie Howe, he comes into Newcastle United after the time he had at Bournemouth, which did end, unfortunately, with that relegation. But he comes into a club that's got a lot of ambition, also a lot of money. That cannot be denied. But he comes into a team at Newcastle who are sitting 19th, 5 points off from the first 11 games, not looking very promising for them. But he comes in as wanting to make changes, but he can do this, and it is Eddie Howe, but he's going to have a tough job ahead of him.
He is, yeah. I think this is one that's going to take time with Eddie Howe. It's great to see him back in management. I expected it to be quickly after his sack and after he left Bournemouth, but it's been quite some time. Fantastic manager. He done an amazing job with Bournemouth to get them up the leagues. That won't be forgotten. So he's, I think he's the right man for the job. He's got a really, really tough ask on his hands. I think the squad that Newcastle have got at this moment in time probably is going to struggle to stay in the league, but they've got money. The new owners have already said that they're going to back him in January, so they're going to be signing some players in January. It'll be interesting to see who they bring in, whether they'll change the squad too much, because that doesn't always work, does it? Bringing in a load of new players. So yeah, he's got a really, really tough job on his hands. But let's see how he does.
Yes, we'll have to see how he does. But all these managers, we wish them all the best of luck and hope that the managers who have unfortunately been sacked will find jobs very shortly and very soon in the football game, because they are good managers. I know Dan won't admit that, Daniel Farker, but I will say that on his behalf for him. And that is the end of the show this week. Dan, we've hit the end of the show. First show back in a long time. The referee's about to blow his whistle for full time. Very good show, as we like to say. We've talked about a lot of stuff, but will you join me next week where we'll talk? I don't know what we'll talk about next week. Football as always, I reckon.
Yep, I'll be there. There'll be England games next week, won't there? So, yeah.
He'll be there as always. Well, before we go, I better quickly mention the social medias. Twitter's at Pitchside Talk, Instagram's at Talk_Pitch, YouTube, Mixcloud, both at Pitchside Talk. And if you don't worry, if you just tuned in just late as the show's ending, do not worry. 6 p.m. on YouTube, Mixcloud, the show will be up for you to listen back to us talking about Ipswich Town, the Premier League, and the revolving door of managers. But yeah, that is everything for the show this week for Pitchside Talk. So I've been George as always. He has been Dan. We'll see you next week, and ciao.
See ya.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.